Welcome to the GRN, the Growth and Resilience Network, where every episode brings you targeted stories and strategies about professional and personal growth and resilience. The intent of each episode is to educate, energize, and equip you with information and hopefully a bit of wisdom to apply in your life and within your community. Hi, I'm Steve Piscitelli, your host, and I'm coming to you from my headquarters, my world headquarters here in Atlantic Beach, Florida, and a very soggy Atlantic Beach, Florida today. Today we're going to explore the world of improv comedy, and I have two of the masters of improv from this part of the planet, Rachel Stromberg and Johnny K. How's that for a name, huh? Johnny K. I came to know them through my participation in their improv company, the Mad Cowford Improv Group. You can find more about Mad Cowford at their website, madcowford.com, and I'll put that up on the podcast. I took a level 1. It was kind of a get to know you 8 weeks, and I learned and studied the basic premises of improv. And this past spring, I came back for level 2, and I'm going to let Rachel and Johnny tell you about those and more. But staying true to improv, we don't have a script, do we, guys?
Nope.
And gals? Nope. No, we don't. So the purpose for this episode is to show why the world needs more improv. You know, how can we learn from the basic improv techniques to build collaboration, respect, risk-taking, personal and professional growth? I know I took improv for one reason. It was to stretch me beyond my comfort zone, and I certainly did that. And one of the things I love about improv is that it's never about you. It's always about the scene and the other person on the stage, and I love that. So, Johnny K., Rachel, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Well, this is good. And Roxy the Wonder Dog over here in the meditation corner.
Yeah, she seems very relaxed.
She's very relaxed,
I admire that.
So let's just, I'm just going to go with, tell us a little bit about each of yourselves. Why improv? And Johnny, you've been doing it for 20-something years, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah.
I started when I was an undergraduate at the University of Florida. I was actually a theater major because I've always been involved in theater, but improv was one of the things that actually scared me. So I didn't.
Scares me.
Yeah, and it still does sometimes, but it definitely scared me back then. I was used to having scripts, so I actually avoided taking an improv class until my last semester in college when I needed 3 extra theater credits to graduate, and I had my opportunity to take either advanced lighting and design or improv. And I decided to take improv and had no idea. I actually thought maybe lighting and design would be more practical, but it turns out that the improv class that I took started me on a journey that continues to this day, and I just fell in love with it as soon as I started doing it.
And we'll talk more about this, but what you were saying to me a little bit off mic, the idea that it helps you de-stress, Johnny. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about that because in your real life, you are an attorney.
Correct.
It is one of those things when you see Johnny K. and you think, and you see him on stage doing the improv. No, he's not an attorney. There's no way he's an attorney. Yeah, an attorney. And you've been an attorney for how long?
I've been an attorney for 17 years. And the people that know me as an attorney like to say, "You're not funny." So they're equally surprised that I'm an improviser.
You're not funny.
And in my opinion, Johnny's one of the funniest people I know.
So, Rachel.
Yes.
Besides the beautiful singing voice we heard off mic on the sound check.
Thank you.
who are you outside of improv?
Outside of improv, my career is professional development. So I do instructional design and training in the corporate world. Do professional development, classes like building a better resume, how to do job interviews, becoming a better business writer, and project management and leadership development, teaching managers how to build better relationships with their employees, how to recognize their employees, how to delegate, and how to be better leaders.
How long have you been doing that?
Oh, you're going to make me confess my age. Yeah. Close to it. I started training in a long time. I'm probably going on 20 years in
20
the
years.
Training development industry, and probably 18 specializing in leadership development.
And improv followed that? Or
It did. Improv followed that. My background is a little bit different than Johnny. I had gone to see a local improv performance here in Jacksonville by a group at the time known as Improv Jacksonville, because a friend of mine had recommended it, and I was immediately hooked. I saw it, and I'm like, oh, I can do this. I want to do this. This looks like so much fun. And it really was. I started taking classes, and that just built my passion from there. And I immediately learned that what I was learning in classes was directly applicable to skills I could use in the classroom when I was facilitating, both making a better learning experience for my adult learners, but also professionally as well. So it was a big, significant difference in my performance. I mean, I was a good trainer before, but this made me a much better trainer.
So you're at that initial improv with Improv Jacksonville, I think you said. What was it that made you say, oh, I got to do this? I mean,
It all looked like fun, but what really hooked me was the guessing games, where they would send someone out of the room and get some suggestions from the audience. So the players in the audience were in on a secret that the person who was sent out didn't know anything about. And then when they would come back, the performers would give clues, and they'd have to figure out what was going on around them.
Wow.
I'm like, I can do that. That looks like so much fun.
And we'll come back to this too, but I'm assuming you incorporate this into what you do now in
Yes.
professional development.
On a lot of levels.
Yeah.
Just some of the basic skills of improv, of listening and yes-anding, and making sure that you make other people look good, I use in the classroom frequently. Adult learners don't want to look stupid or be embarrassed in front of their peers or even their managers who may be in the learning audience. So I never tell anybody that they're wrong. I yes and what they give me. So if they give me something that's not quite 100% right, I yes and that and build on top of it so they always look good, which creates an environment in the classroom where people want to participate because they never have to fear that they're going to look bad. But I also take the same skills that we learn in improv and directly apply it in corporate training. It's a theory called applied improvisation, where we teach the same skills we teach our actors in a professional work environment. Same skills, yes-anding, listening, being there for each other, exploring and heightening ideas. And it contributes to a lot of the courses that we do on customer service training, leadership, change management, team building. It's really applicable in a lot of different ways.
Wow. In the courtroom,
Yes,
does one use improv?
absolutely.
Tell me how.
Well, you can't plan for everything that happens in a courtroom, and so I definitely use the skills of improv to help me with my flexibility and adaptation at any moment. I've used it quite often in just, say, a closing argument, or just arguing something to a court and trying to read what the judges are asking. I've used it in talking with defense attorneys and trying to find out what they want, because listening is a large part of improvisation. So I think improv has helped make me a better listener. And so I try as best as I can to be reading what is going on with the situation and adapt to it. And then for, let's say, if I'm in trial and I'm cross-examining a defendant, you can plan as much as you want for that, but you don't know exactly what that witness is going to say. Sometimes you don't know what your own witness is going to say. And
That's got to be a little frightening.
It is, and there's a lot of shock and surprise sometimes, and you have to be able to deal with that, and sometimes deal with it that you don't look shocked or surprised at what happens. So I use it to try to actively listen and know what the next question should be. Try to pick up on something that I can then follow up on, know what has been covered, has not been covered, try to listen for logical inconsistencies or something that I think a jury might be listening to and saying, that doesn't make sense. Maybe I can clarify it right there in the moment, and do my best to adapt constantly, and also see how things are going, and judging what I need to do next. There's a lot of that day in, day out.
That listening piece is so critical.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's a great book that Sam Wasson came out, I think, the last year or two. Short title is Improv Nation. And one of the things, he talks about all these names that everybody knows, but he's talking about Belushi when Belushi first started. Mm-hmm. And he had said... he's talking about all the great improvisers, give or take an improviser. The next generation had been playing together for years, and then in came John. He said they could all toss the ball, but John didn't yet know how to throw it back. And goes on, it's about this idea of listening and the yes-anding. So for the people who are listening today, tell us what the yes and is, because that was the first night of level 1. And that was the whole night, but it's the basic premise.
Yes.
What is it?
Yes, and it's kind of, in a way, a two-part series. Starting with yes is the basic premise of agreement. When you're in a scene, you really have only your scene partner and yourself, or multiple scene partners, to rely on. So in order to be able to move forward, you have to start from a place of agreement. And the and part just takes that a little bit higher. It's moving the idea from agreeing to it to action, moving the idea to action, because when you and something, you're exploring and heightening what has already been given. So we could agree in a scene to both be in the same location, but if you just came saying yes to me, the scene's not going to move forward. We're at a farm. Yes. We're looking at cows. Yes. I'm going to go tip that cow. Yes. Well, if you don't give me something else, you're just giving the agreement. But if we go, we're at Old Man Jansen's farm, and I'm going to go tip that cow, and you should help me, and you respond with, yes, I'll tip that cow. I'm going to tip that cow 20% because that milk was fantastic. Now we're moving forward.
I just got it.
So, and it's the same in a relationship, in your family, in the work environment. You can agree with people, but to be able to move forward, you have to be able to and that thing. And the power of yes is so amazing, because saying yes to someone's idea is agreeing that their voice is being heard. And a lot of times people don't share their ideas, their opinions, and contributions because they fear being rejected, or they'll think someone will judge them or disagree. But by saying yes, you're creating an environment of safety where people feel that they can speak up. And by saying and, you're embracing those ideas. And I'm not saying you're going to say yes to everything, because no company has that kind of budget, and no parent's going to say yes to everything their child says. But it is letting people know that what they say has value. And when people feel that what they say has value, then they personally feel valued. And then you have the ability to build from there.
And it can, even if you, like you said, you can't just yes and for the foreseeable future, because there are limits.
Yes.
There are obvious limits. What it does do is it creates a culture of discussion, conversation. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
And really exploration, too. You know, a lot of people get the misguided idea that improv is all about being funny. But improv really has its foundation in looking at your situation and circumstances and exploring and heightening what you can do within them.
Right.
Because most circumstances have some type of constraints. Just like being on stage has constraint. The audience says, okay, you're ninjas in a ball pit, And your world is now about being ninjas in a ball pit. And at work, your constraints might be, okay, we have to get this project done in 2 months, and your budget has been cut to half of what we thought it would be. And now you have to work together to explore and heighten ideas that will work within those constraints. So in a lot of ways, it actually builds your creativity.
And one of the things that I like about the concept of yes and Rachel was Rachel and I share a lot of the same thoughts on it, is yes and forces you to engage with the other person or other people. So to me, yes and beyond just a sort of rote repetition of something, yes and this, yes and that, it forces you, by saying yes, you are listening to the other person and you're engaging with that idea, whatever it is. Because a lot of the people that might come to improv, they might think they are funny. They might be funny by themselves, but if you don't know how to throw the ball back,
right.
You're not going to be able to work in a group environment or with other people on stage. Yes, and forces you to start working with other people's ideas, and they will do the same to you. So it's a mutual respect type of thing, but it forces you to get out of that selfish me first way of thinking and forces you to work with the other person. And so that's why yes and is one of the first things that we teach, even though later on we kind of get more complex about what yes and means. It's that first thing of, this is very important to listen to your fellow players, to engage with your fellow players, to acknowledge the validity of their ideas, because that is one of those cornerstones that you really need to, I think, get before moving to more nuanced thoughts on that concept.
Yeah. And the idea, too, I think so many people, I know when I told folks I was taking improv, and they say, "Oh, you're going to be a stand-up comic." I say, no. One, I'm not doing it to do this for a professional reason. I'm doing it to explore. I said, but so I learned quickly, no, you don't want to be a stand-up comic, because if you are, you have alienated everybody else on the stage. Correct? Is it correct? Yeah. Yes? It's not about that.
They are two different skills, and I think one helps the other. I know a lot of people who are great stand-ups who improve their stand-up by taking improv. I know some great improvisers that challenge themselves by doing stand-up and kind of owning something themselves.
Yeah.
But they are different muscles to work. So one doesn't automatically translate to being good at the other.
Yeah. Well put. And Wasson talks about that. He talks about Shelley Berman, Joan Rivers, that they were kind of, according to him, when they got on stage with the improv people, it was, how many scenes do I have? It's me. I need the time. And he said it didn't work. They were, as you just said, they had great muscles in another venue, but not in that.
Right.
They weren't. Now, what I found, anytime I was doing the improv, even we had that one public performance, that especially, after the culmination of level 2, but even in the workshops with a great group of very creative people and very supportive people and a great coach in that level 2 workshop, and the level 1 also was a great coach, I was scared to death each time, because I got to listen. However, I also have to start developing my character. I got to figure out where I'm standing in this. I got to know where Rachel is. Now, here comes Johnny K, and what is he? How do you keep all that going? And then the audience might still throw something at you. What are your secrets to that? Is that a DNA in you folks?
My favorite secret to that is to be a very good listener. Oftentimes when we're put in a stressful situation, like being on stage for the first time, we tend to get stuck in our head because we're worried, am I going to look bad? Am I going to say the right thing? And a lot of people think improvisers are all these really brilliant, smart people. And of course, I won't deny that we are. But they think that we're brilliantly smart. But really what we focus on is just being mindful, being fully embraced in the moment, and paying close attention to what your scene partner gives. Because if you're stuck in your head worried about if you're going to look good, you're out of focus with the situation. Someone's going to say something that you miss, and then you will look silly. because you'll be reacting to something that you either pre-planned that doesn't fit in the scene, or you might go for the joke, which doesn't help your scene partner. But if you're fully mindful and paying attention to what's happening to the scene, fully listening to their body language, their facial expressions, and everything that they say, then you can be very, very successful. You actually just turn off your brain and focus on the other person.
Easier said than done.
That's true.
Very much so.
Wow, that is tough. Johnny, add to that?
That was one of the things that scared me most when I got into improv, because I was used to coming from a script background. So I liked, and just kind of my personality, I liked scripts, I like order, I like being able to plan something, I like, blueprints and
A to Z.
very
Yes.
structured
Soup to
things.
nuts. Here it is.
So, my mother would joke with me, because I would get so upset sometimes if I would go off to school and I'd come back home and she would have rearranged some furniture, and that threw my world into a minor crisis for a couple of days. So flexibility was never one of my strengths as a child, but
Sheldon Cooper,
When
I
I-
think, over
I'd
here.
have to say I'm very much the same.
Is that right?
Yes.
So improv was scary to me for those reasons, but became such a benefit for those
Yeah.
same reasons. It got me better, and I'm still not all the way there, and I don't think I'll ever be all the way there, but I'm certainly better now at being flexible with things, adapting to things, sort of maybe looking at something and just being like, well, okay, that's something I've got to deal with, but not freaking out about it, because improv, you get one of the wonderful things about improv over, I think, sometimes doing a scripted show. You do a scripted show, you do it for a couple of weeks and then it's over. Improv is, I have now done thousands and thousands and thousands of improv scenes throughout my career, and a lot of them have been bad. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. I've done a lot of terrible improv, but it doesn't scare me anymore, because I've been there, I've done bad improv, I've survived it, and now I can relax a little bit more and know that of those thousands of scenes, even though some of them have been bad, I've never really locked up and been completely lost. So
Really?
I feel okay about it. It may not be good things that I end up doing on stage, but at least I do something. So I'm not frozen in that moment anymore.
Right.
I think there's been a lot of research done that shows how improv in partnership with therapy helps people with social anxiety. And I've always found that very impressive. And it's a lot of the same reasons that our level 1 and level 2 beginning improvisers really get excited and embrace improv. One of the main things that we teach is that it's okay to fail. And I think Johnny, really exemplifies that. Not saying that you're a total failure, but in what he just said.
Not total.
Not total. But in what you just said, embracing failure, because you're always going to have another shot, and you can trust that your scene partners are going to support you if you do start to fail. And in improv, starting with that foundation of yes and, you're making it a safe environment to fail. And for those with anxiety, a lot of their social anxiety comes from a place of being concerned about being judged or making social mistakes. So, like I said, in partnership with their therapy, the improv helps them get past a lot of their social anxiety challenges.
Yeah.
And I think Second City actually started a class just recently called
Yes.
Improv for Social Anxiety,
It
which focuses on people that have that particular block.
Wow. That does, make for a better world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm back at Wasson's book, and when you were saying what you were, one of the great directors that he mentions throughout the book, there's this one quote, and he says, "There is no failure in result. There's only failure in process."
Yes.
And I think what you were saying is, don't worry about that. You're not failing. You're advancing the scene somehow, and you just can't get locked up that, oh my God, I'll look foolish, or it might not work, or you just go for it.
You just go for it, and if you start to really take the principles of improv to heart, I think the process is getting to understand how it is that you listen, how it is you respond, how is it you adapt, how do you work well with your scene partners and work to create something together. So that's the process that I think we go through.
Idea of Second City and social anxiety is intriguing. And what you were saying about yourself, Johnny, you had this control. I got it, and even if the furniture was moved as a kid, that was bothering you. And well, one, that takes guts that you recognized it. Well, that's not even gut. That's awareness. And then it takes guts to say, I'm going to do something, and I'm going to push this uncomfortable. Not everybody can do that.
And I actually disagree with that. I think everybody can do that.
Really?
And that's something that we tell people in the first day of classes is we know that this is a risk for most people, and we know that this is stepping out of their comfort zone. So we want to make it a welcoming environment. And the first step is signing up for the class and actually walking through the door,
showing up.
So, but I do think that anybody can step out of their comfort zone and take a risk. Whether it's not just improv, it can be any exploration of any topic or any skill or hobby or anything that somebody wants to do. I've always been admiring of people who are endlessly curious. So I don't know if I fit that bill, but I am curious about a lot of things, and improv was something that even when I was scared of it, I was curious about it. And now my curiosity led to something that now 20 years later I'm still doing quite actively.
Two things, the curiosity. I think the author is Elizabeth Gilbert. In one of her books, she says, don't search for passion, search for curiosity. The curiosity will lead to the passion. And I thought that was intriguing, very intriguing. And they're touching on that. You're curious about this. Not everybody's curious, but or maybe they are. You're just curiouser, I guess. That is cool. And to get people to understand, try it. Go ahead, do it. Do you do this with? I know you do it with training, but do you do it with adolescents? Have you been into the schools?
We have done a couple of programs for high school students. One in particular, there's a program called Joe Berg, and
I've heard of it.
They've had us come usually once a semester, once a year for their students, and do a workshop for them. We've done some programs at the libraries.
Yeah, we have a partnership with I wouldn't necessarily call it a partnership, but we have an arrangement with the Jacksonville Library, and we do a summer series with them for teenagers to come in and do improv workshops with us.
How do you tie, or how can we tie, improv into resilience, personal resilience, team resilience, company resilience? Can you? Is it a stretch?
No, not a stretch at all.
No. I think, one of the things about teaching improv to anyone or teenagers is increasing the level of communication. And teenagers are notorious for creating kind of cliques, or who's inside, who's outside, or putting bullying or putting somebody down. And I think that is incompatible with the lessons of improv. So I think improv helps both the people to listen and accept other people in a non-judging way. And also, if you can do improv and get up there and be good, the audience will laugh, or the audience will cheer, or the audience will get behind you. Mm-hmm. And there is nothing better, I think, more fulfilling. Well, there's probably things more fulfilling than that, but I think it's very fulfilling. And I definitely tell people who get on stage, I say that first laugh will come. The audience will respond, and laughter is something that is it is largely involuntary. So an audience will laugh, and and there's no faking that. You know, they aren't going to fake laugh if they don't find something funny. They find something funny, they will laugh. And I've watched people's eyes light up the first time they say something, and they're usually not expecting a laugh, and there's a laugh, and you just watch the switch turn and the lights go on in their eyes when they realize that they have done something that got a positive reaction from someone else.
And I was thinking, a veteran singer-songwriter told me at one of his early lessons when he got off the stage one night, and he said, "This audience sucks." And one of his mentors heard him and said, whoa, no audience comes to the club wanting to have a bad time.
Right.
Correct.
They might have a bad night. Your job is to, and so what I have found sitting in an improv audience and then being on stage that one time, that they want to laugh. They want to have a good time. They didn't come pay their cover charge just so they could be bored to tears. Correct. So I think you were right on target with that. I'm going to stay with Johnny for a moment longer because, again, we were talking off mic that you need improv because you have a high-stress job. And I was marveling, Rachel, that the two of you put a lot of time into Mad Cowford. You founded it 20 years ago?
12. I've been doing improv for 20 years, but Mad Cowford was formed in 2006. 12 years
so
ago.
You have, you're doing something 2-3 nights a week, and you're here now. And as we record this, it's a Sunday afternoon, albeit a very rainy one, so you wouldn't be playing tennis or whatever you might do. But still, you're very involved. This is a part of your life.
It is,
and I can also attest. I think I can. This is not a moneymaker. Not at this level.
No. Yeah.
So there's something to the soul here. This is resonating. Talk to us.
Yes. It is something that has helped me so much in my life, and as well as just fun to do. So what we were talking about off mic a little bit ago is that, you know, I did improv when I was in college, and I did it through law school, and it was a fun diversion. And then I got my job here, and for a few years I was an attorney, and really I didn't have much in the way of hobbies or other activities I was doing outside of being an attorney. I was just that, you know, day in, day out, all week, all year. And I could feel it in myself that I wasn't as fun as I used to be, and I wasn't as happy as I was before, and I realized I needed to get back into to doing something fun. So improv was a natural thing to get back into doing, and I looked up improv in Jacksonville, and the first thing that came up then was the troupe Improv Jacksonville. And so I started going to shows and getting to know the people in the cast, and eventually made my way into the cast. And I still do it now because, you know, it's fun, and at the end of the week, it's a good way to de-stress, to get up and be with my friends and just have a fun time. And putting a lot of the work into it is because I have gotten so much out of improv, both friendship, fun, and life skills, that I feel it's very important to pass that knowledge on and share it with as many people as I can. So that's what keeps me going, actively involved with not just performing, but teaching and doing all the other associated things with Mad Cowford Improv.
Well, one of the things that seems to help Johnny K here is that you have a high level of awareness. You have a skill.
I hope so.
You have a skill that, like you said, after a couple of years, you kind of saw this isn't who I want to be or who I used to be. There's something missing. And then you did something about it. That's the other piece. There's the awareness and then the action, which, not that should be taught. Maybe that's a workshop. Rachel, and any of what we've just been talking about, the resilience factor or something, because you've been madly taking notes on your hand, your arm, so I know you got something.
The resilience is such a big part of improv, because as Johnny was saying earlier, we've all done not so great scenes, and it never feels great when you do a bad scene. But part of the success of the resilience of improv is your team supporting you, because we teach taking risks and getting outside of your comfort zone. But we also teach, it's not your job to make sure you look good. It's your job to make the other people look good and trust that they know it's their job to make sure you look good. And when you're working with a team, either on stage or in your organization, when you volunteer, and you have each other's back, it's much easier to be resilient. When people cheer if you fail versus putting you down because you failed, you have this level of support, and you're more likely to be willing to take a risk.
That's a much better answer than I gave a few minutes ago.
No, but it's also leads me down another road. You can you come into a company. I'm the CEO, and you come into my company and you do your thing with my people, okay? Because my HR director said we need this. So you come in, but I'm the biggest idiot as a boss, and I don't give a darn what you just did. You're still doing it my way, and I need to look good. Do you do training at the highest levels of a company as well as with the rank and file?
Yes, absolutely. We do some classes that are just for leaders, some classes that are just for teams, and we do classes that are a combination of leaders and teams.
Yeah.
When there is a little bit of resistance that's identified, I typically will do a needs assessment before we schedule a class.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And we identify that there may be some challenges with leaders being willing to embrace the ideas of their employees. I prefer to do a leadership-focused class so they could see more the value of being more open-minded to what their employees have to contribute and the results that they'll get from that.
Wow.
Typically, when you start to create an environment that feels safe, and to create a safe environment, you leverage those ideas of yes, Andy, making sure people feel valued. And exploring and heightening those ideas. People are no longer afraid to come forward with their ideas for being shot down or judged or ridiculed. People feel that it's safe to share those ideas. And when people feel safe, they share more. And when people embrace the ideas of others, then you have people who are excited about contributing. You have the growth for problem solving grows exponentially because now you've got multiple people collaborating, and it's not my idea, it's everybody's idea. So you get buy-in and support. And when you have buy-in and support, it's easier to take a risk because you've become more resilient.
And I'm looking at your website and at mattcalford.com, and one of them, Hire Us, that particular link, private performances, but you got the corporate training. That's something that people need to look into. I mean, they really do, because it's different than the normal PowerPoint and let's talk about the quarterly results, and you're really digging into something that's really human.
And it's fun. Just the camaraderie that builds from having fun together.
Yeah.
And people taking a little bit of risk to be funny and have people support other people taking that risk to be funny builds a lot for a team. When
you go in, are people in your audience? I'm assuming now the management team's on board. They want you in. They're focused on this. They understand it. They get it. So now you go in and you've got a room of 10, 30, 100 people, whatever it is. Are those people there because they've been mandated to come? And then how do you work with that?
There's always, every situation's a little bit different. Sometimes you have a whole group of people who are all excited. Just, this is going to be awesome. But often you'll have a group of people that has a mix of people who are really excited, people who are like, I don't know what to think about this, so I'll wait to see if everybody else likes it, and then I'll decide if I like it too. And then you have people who are like, this was just a dumb idea, but I'm here because I have to be.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's elective, but sometimes, the whole team's invited, and there may be initially people who don't want to or resistant to it. And as a facilitator, a lot of the things that I've learned through improv is how to work with some of the naysayers.
Yeah.
And part of it is helping them reframe their thoughts around it. So if someone's looking at something negatively, I'll either ask them, well, what do you think the benefit could be? What do you think the outcome might be? What results are you looking for? Or I'll ask a peer so that person doesn't feel pressured to say what their positive outcome is going to be.
Yeah.
So they can glean a little bit from what other people are expecting. But we usually start with simple exercises that are very easy to do to help build people's confidence, and because they're taking a risk, because anything they contribute to activity wise, they might feel a little insecure about looking silly in front of their peers. And one of the things that I like to say is participation is really important, because if it's only one person doing something, it's one person looking stupid. But if everybody's looking stupid together, it's a party.
That's good. I like that. That's good. It's a party. It's a party of stupid. No, that's good. That's very insightful. It's very insightful. All right. Before we close it up, and you get back into your arcs to go back to where you're going today in this torrential downpour out there, you got 90 seconds, and you're selling improv. You want someone to come to a level 1 workshop. You want them there, and you know it's good for them. Well, you know, obviously, because you sold me 3 years ago when I first came in. What's the bring it down to the essence? What's the pitch? Why should someone invest 8 weeks in a workshop about improv?
Well, I think improv teaches listening. It teaches trust. It teaches awareness. It teaches adaptability. It teaches flexibility. It teaches you how to get out of your head and explore different creative ideas. It teaches you how to do things that are self-empowered. It teaches you how to do things when you have one other person that you're working with. It teaches you how to deal with a group of people that you're working with. It teaches you how to build things together and work as a team. It is an incredible amount of fun.
Yes.
And that I don't think should ever be discounted. Just the fact that it is something that feels good to do.
Yeah.
And it is something that when people look at you, they say, "I could never do that." And again, I don't think that's true. I think they could do that, but there is that perception of, wow, you have taken a risk and you have done something that I find incredible. Yeah, that is the perception that people might have. But improv is not just a theatrical form. It is something that I think. I just yesterday saw the Mr. Rogers documentary called "Won't You Be My Neighbor?" And Mr. Rogers is not an improviser as we would think of the term, but it does talk about how some of his puppet characters grew out of when he was on TV and something would go wrong, and he had this the Daniel Tiger sock puppet and just started doing things, and he had to make stuff up as a sock puppet. And then it shows, Mr. Rogers dealing with kids, and of course you can't plan for what a kid is going to do or say. Yeah. And so every time Mr. Rogers was interacting with a kid, he is improvising. Tom Hanks talked about how he learned more from acting in Turner and Hooch dealing with a dog because you can't plan for what a dog is going to do. And I just think that improv is a wonderful way to just teach you whatever life throws at you, you're strong enough to deal with it.
You are.
You're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It goes back
Rachel.
to you bringing up resiliency. Life is full of constraints and strange situations and things that usually are brought your way that were not something you initiated, but here's your situation. And it could be anything between your child getting sick at school and you having to leave work, or getting laid off, and your situation and circumstances change. And some people get in that victim mentality of, this is something that happened to me, which creates them not moving forward. It puts them in a state of depression, and their ability to move forward is somewhat limited. But if you look at a situation or circumstance in a brighter light, well, this is my condition. I've lost my job, but I have these skills, and these are the things that I could do that's within my control to move forward. Yeah. And I think improv teaches a lot about resilience, because not just in a scene having fun, here's your situation and circumstance. you're in a bar and there's puppies everywhere. Here's your situation, circumstances, deal with it. But in life, if you blame your situation and don't move forward, you're stuck.
Yeah.
And if you take accountability and look at what you've got to work with, your ability to be creative to work within that situation grows.
Yeah, I should, every night I'd get home after the workshop, and Lori would say to me, she said, well, how'd it go? And I said, well, I'm still the slowest in the class, but I had a lot of fun. And this week I felt like I did one thing really well, and it was just like I puffed up, and I said, look at that. This is good.
Sometimes that's all it takes to keep it going.
Come on back for one more. All right, we're going to finish with this. You didn't know it, but that's why you're improv. So you're going to tell the audience, one of you, what 185 is, and we're going to do a little 185, okay? Tell them what 185 is. Okay. This is how we used to finish our workshops, and on intermission, I think we did it the night of the performance, for the public performance. What's 185, Johnny?
185 is a standard joke-telling game where 185 things walk into a bar. The bartender will not serve them, and there is a punchline to this joke. But we get from the audience whatever it is that walks into a bar, and then we make up jokes. Okay. So some of them are terrible, and I hope that you will edit out any terrible ones that we suddenly come up with.
And also say this, because remember the first time I heard it, I said, well, wait a minute, to myself. Improv's not supposed to be about me standing out being funny, but this is me standing out being funny. So it is about, though, it was a warm-up. That was one thing. And Della used to use it sometimes at the beginning of one of our workshop sessions. Yes. So it was a warm-up. It also was something where I had to really think. It was a good thinking on your feet. Boom, boom. Mm-hmm. How do you do this? And then even if you don't have anything, right, you got to do something, because the first person out is saying, I'll risk it. I'm giving you an extra 10 seconds. Yes. Come up with something, exactly. Rachel, right?
Yeah, and people can perceive it as being it's an individual, all-about-me thing, because you're getting up there and you're going to want to tell a really good joke. But it's also really supportive, because the team that's in that back line with you is cheering you on whether your joke was great or not. Mm-hmm. And just like you said, we never want to leave the box empty. There should always be somebody
has to go in there.
So even if you go up there to tell a crappy joke, like you said, you're supporting your team by buying them time.
Yeah, we call that the golden bowl of, I won't say the final word of that.
Dookie. Golden bowl of Dookie.
Yes, so you do that, you sacrifice yourself for the rest of the group. So that's how we...
And right now, the whole group in front of me is 2.
Yes.
Yes. All right, so we're going to say 185, and Roxy has given me some of these earlier.
Oh, good.
And the first one is 185 dog trainers.
Oh.
Okay. 185 dog trainers walk into a bar, and the bartender says, I'm sorry, we don't serve your kind here. And then the dog trainers pull out guns, and the bartender says, what is this, a collar?
Oh, yay. 185 dog trainers walk into a bar. Bartender says, I'm sorry, we don't serve dog trainers here. And the dog trainers say, sit, heel. Serve me a beer.
So, wasn't sure how many we were doing. See, I'm buying myself time here by just sort of vamping. 185 dog trainers walk into a bar, and it's raining outside, so they have to step over a poodle.
And Rachel, we'll finish with you.
185 dog trainers walk into a bar, and the bartender says, I'm sorry, we don't serve dog trainers here. And the dog trainers say, that's disappointing. You should pause and reflect on your actions.
Bada boom. They'll be here all week, folks. Listen, I appreciate you folks coming out on this wet, gloomy day.
Thank you.
But this has been fun. And before we hit the off button, is there anything that you want to say? Well, before I go to there, don't forget madcowford.com. You can find out about improv classes. You can find out how to hire them, their house team. You can meet the cast, see videos, but get out to their shows. You could do 2 shows a week, correct?
We have 3.
3.
Usually Rain Dogs on Wednesday nights. There's Improv, and Dahlia's Poorhouse on Friday nights. Depending on when this goes out, there may be changes in the schedules.
Check the website.
Yes, but we're friendly people, so come on up, come out, see a show, talk to us. We love talking improv and talking to people.
Highly recommend it, folks. Get out and first go to an improv performance. Have some fun with it, and be one of the audience members that gives a prompt. You could give dog trainer, for $185 if you want. I'm sure you could do better than that. And then take one of these things on. It would be a lot of fun, and you'll learn a lot about yourself. So, Rachel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Johnny K, thank you.
Thank you.
This has been an absolute blast for me. Folks, don't forget, if you go to my website, stevepiscitelli.com, you can find this podcast along with many more. And I want to give a quick note that coming up this fall, there are going to be a series of podcasts highlighting the concept of community. And each podcast episode is going to examine one of my 7 R's for purpose and growth: relationships, relevance, rainbows, resources, responsibility, reflection, and, as our 2 guests today talked about, resilience. And they're going to relate to powerful transformational stories that I'll share. And the podcast will culminate with the release of my new book on or about January 1st of 2019. So until we meet again, either virtually or somewhere in person around this great nation, this is Steve Piscitelli. I think that's Steve Piscitelli, not Steve Piscitelli. Steve Piscitelli from my world headquarters here in Atlantic Beach, reminding all of us to choose well, live well, and be well, and continue to create, share, and savor powerful moments. Bye-bye, folks.